Hello, folks. We are back to This Is What's Out There. I am Robert Edward Derry, and I am talking with Jan Posey, the CEO of A Class Act. And before we start in again where we left off, I do want to clarify something about the Festival of Healing and Spiritual Awareness I mentioned in the before the break. It's going to be March 23rd to the 25th, 2012. All right, so no need to go there and check the next year's calendar. March 23rd, 25th, 2012 at the Greenville Shrine Club. That's 119 Beverly Road in Greenville, South Carolina. And if you want any more information, you can call Jan at 864-233-3033. Her email is janthemother@aol.com. And I believe that the website for the Festival of Healing is www.festivalofhealing.com. All right, Jan, sorry about that. I just had to do a little clarification business, but you were mentioning about...
Thank you.
You were mentioning... you're welcome. You were mentioning about someone catching an arrow in a rather unfortunate place, and I guess it affected him in the next life. Is that... is that common? I mean, when I say common, if someone, God forbid, today was shot down there, does it necessarily mean that they're going to remember that they were shot or feel the pain from being shot in the next life?
On rare occasions, somebody does remember it, but usually not. Usually the regression therapy brings out the fact that can explain why they have that pain.
All right.
Yep. We were doing Reiki on a gentleman one day, a friend of mine and we found this hole in his aura, and it was like a geyser. You could feel the energy pouring out. And when we asked him about this, he said, "Oh, yes, that's where I was shot in the back." So there are lots of ways of doing things. So we fixed the hole for him.
Oh, I'm sure he was grateful for that. Hey, one thing I wanted to ask, too, is, now you're probably too young to remember this TV show from the 70s. It was called In Search Of. It was narrated by Leonard Nimoy, and he used to explore all these different topics like Bermuda Triangle, Bigfoot, and so forth. It was one of my favorite shows when I was growing up. And I know that they had a couple of episodes that dealt with past life and reincarnation. All right. Now, both episodes took a look at, got views from experts, and they also talked to skeptics and, debunkers. So, obviously, there are people who think this is all a hoax. They think it's all a scam or this plain nonsense. How do you deal with people who come up to you and say, "Hey, all this is just fraud"?
Well, everybody has an opinion, and I'm going to tell you how I got to my opinion. When I was little and I was reading the Bible, because I loved everything I did in my church, which was everything that there was to do in the church, and I'm reading in the Bible, and it says, only, I'm remembering 10,000 right now, but that may not be the exact number. Only 10,000 will get into heaven. And I saw that in my mind, and it's growing up was going, wow, I'm going to have to really, really, really be good to get into heaven. This is big stuff, and I really want to get into heaven, so I'm going to have to be really, really good. So, that left some big questions in my mind. I'm thinking, how can that be? God loves everybody, because that's the most important verse in the Bible to me is God is love. God loves everybody. Why is he not going to let them into heaven? So, as I matured and learned things from other people, I had a wonderful friend who was what they call a birth psychic, born with the cowl over your face. And so, fortunately, I had her to toss things around with. And with the regression therapy, it made perfect sense to me that we couldn't get all that done. We could not be that good in one lifetime. That it took a little bit more experience than that to get it right. So when I, began learning about regression and past life regression, I'm thinking this really, really makes sense to me.
All right. I don't know. Did you remember a movie called the Case File of Bridie Murphy?
Yeah.
Okay, it was a book by Maury Bernstein, and he talked to a Virginia Tighe who was a housewife, and under hypnosis, he recalled a 19th century Irish woman named Bridie Murphy. And it became a best-selling book, and then there was a movie, and but all these experts came up and said, we checked out all the facts, and we can't find any Bridie Murphy living in 19th century Ireland. However, we do have a Bridie Murphy Corkell who lived across the street from Ms. Tighe when she was a child, and they thought maybe she was actually just remembering some suppressed childhood memories of this particular woman. So when things like this happen, when you get a case that's widely known, and then suddenly it seems like it gets debunked. This is sort of like the last question. I mean, how does it affect the profession? Do you just shrug it off and go on, or do you have to, do you end up having to face some hard questions from potential clients, or
Well, there are people that you are never going to convince of what you think is right, but then we all right in some way. So if that person in this lifetime has come to be a skeptic, then that's something they need to learn as their contribution to all of us. So I don't try to argue with anybody because, this is my opinion, right?
Correct.
And all opinions are like honeycombs. We all have one, and they all stink. So I don't want to try to impress my opinion on somebody else. I want to allow them to listen to me, but I want to listen to them too.
I'm sorry, that was very poetically put.
You like that one? Huh?
Yes,
that is a good one.
Apparently, we're on cable TV now. Something you had mentioned before. How do you see a hole in an aura?
I didn't see it. I felt it.
You felt it. Okay.
Now, there are people who see auras clearly will see all of this. Like, I remember the first time I was learning how to see the aura. Now I had never done this before. And all of a sudden, I see this red lightning bolt go into this person's throat. And I'm asking the teacher, I know I'm imagining this. And so we asked the person, and they have sore throat. So what that lightning bolt was showing me is that there was a sore throat there. So, yeah, some people can see things like this. They, don't get me wrong, I don't see stuff like that very often.
Oh, that's good, because I don't want someone coming up to me going, you have a huge hole in your aura. I'm probably going to just start freaking out, like, oh, right. Okay, we're actually coming up on our next commercial break. But when we come back, I want to ask you about Bert Goldman and his recounting of the tale of Jane Evans. We'll spend a little bit more after the break. All right, folks, we are talking with Jan Posey, CEO of A Class Act. If you want more information from Ms. Posey, you can call her at 864-233-3033 or email her at janthemother@aol.com. All right, and we'll check back with you in a moment.